to look up at the stars. No, 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 no.
Come take a look at my dream world.
You don't have to look up at the stars.
Chat, if you wanna come get it, then come for it. I'm so clean, my kick's nice, I'm Chuck Norris. Minute made the beat bounce, had to jump on it. Run for it, run, Gump Forrest Gump like hollow pumps, you gotta jump. No trouble, no double, I got a stun. You don't have to look up at the stars. Make one wish, you're looking at a star. Swag so fresh, you can put it in the jar. And the way I change gear, you can put me in the car. I remember when me and Seif used to sneak in every concert door. Now I got my feet in. Every day is Get Friday, no weekend.
You don't have to look up at the stars.
Welcome back, everyone, to your favorite live sports show. That's not the final whistle. Yes, indeed, it's hashtag thisJUSTin. But we do have Blaine from the final whistle back for way too long. How goes it, Blaine?
I'm doing well, Justin. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. I know this was a little bit of a last-second thing that whether my availability was going to be around, but appreciate you having me on. Always a pleasure being on hashtag thisJUSTin.
If it's basketball, then Blaine has to be here. And if it's basketball, then you know Neil moves from behind the camera to in front of it. Ready for this, Neil?
Yeah, man. I always ready to talk basketball. Glad to be here with Blaine and obviously with you. So let's get it.
Who probably was not ready for what has been happening at the Memphis Grizzlies because, gentlemen, Ja Morant is facing a de facto 2-game suspension, and it could possibly be worse with head coach Taylor Jenkins saying there is no exact timetable for Ja's return. And guys, this is coming from a situation where this last weekend he was seen on his Instagram live brandishing a gun. And there have been other reported incidents. Gentlemen, I will start and rattle them up in quick succession. First, he has allegedly been reported to hitting a teenager multiple times before returning with another gun, or maybe possibly the same gun. He got in an altercation with a mall security guard. And before that, the Indiana Pacers reported that members of their traveling party had red dots pointed at them from Ja Morant's car, or a car that Ja Morant is said to have. So, Blaine, what do you make of this entire Ja Morant dilemma, situation, mess, whatever you want to call it?
It's, the biggest thing is just like, bro, really? Like, why? It's just like dumbfounding. I'm dumbfounded, honestly, by it. Like, you are like one of the young faces of this league. Like, you're never gonna have like those seconds away from the media, and it's your own personal media that's getting you in trouble. Like, what? Like, I don't understand what he was processing in that moment. Like why are you doing all of these different nuances and things? And like you laid out, Justin, 2-game suspension de facto. Like, come on now. We all know this could get really bad really fast for this man. Like, and if you're a Grizzlies fan, you're in a world of trouble. Like, your season might be a wrap, like, depending on how this situation unfolds, because Memphis, Ja Morant is the Memphis Grizzlies. The engine does not like go without him if they want any chance of being a true contender in the Western Conference. But in regards to this situation, I just don't understand why he would put himself in that situation. Like, if you really want to be like in that area and you're trying to defend yourself, that's one thing, but it doesn't seem like how he's gone about it in his defense was the right approach. So what, like, brandishing a gun at a nightclub, like, you're already putting yourself in harm's way. It kind of reminds me of what happened with Carmelo Anthony, right? He almost has to take that approach just to make sure that he can kind of even get back on the court. Just own up to it, understand that you messed up, so to speak, keeping it PG, but and trying to keep everything squared away in that regard. But foolishness, I don't think he's that type of person, but I just think he got caught up in the moment, and now it could really jeopardize him and his team.
To Blaine's point, Neil, the NBA is still conducting ongoing investigations into all 3 or 4 incidents I previously mentioned. So this may be more than a 2-game suspension we're looking at. So Neil, what do you think of the entire dilemma?
I mean, Blaine hit it right on the head. I think that this is a very stupid move by Ja. Like, we've seen a lot of players come through the NBA and they would speak about, being focused on basketball, be focused in the moment. You kind of just hone in on your basketball, all the extracurricular stuff leave out. No, I know Ja Morant is a young guy. When young players come into the NBA, they usually get caught up in things, entourage, clubs, whatever. This is not new territory for anybody, but um, rarely do we see it from somebody so prolific. Like Ja Morant's ceiling is very, very high. He is already a huge impact player in the NBA. So for him to be doing stuff seemingly every week, just that avoids logic. You know what I mean? Like every week he's caught up in some scandal, he's caught up in some saying something, doing something, and then now kind of putting on this gun toting bad boy kind of image, and he ready to defend his space and he ready to go at it with anybody. Like, now I understand that you want a certain image, because I know it's reported that he grew up relatively privileged, and I know maybe it's just something he wants to portray because of insecurities, or maybe he just relates to that type of lifestyle. But he has to realize that he has a lot more things to lose by perpetuating this lifestyle, right? Like, who are you doing it for? Are you doing it to seem like a real one? You're doing it because you want to be in the streets. You want to be you you losing your career. Your career is in jeopardy, and this is money. This is legacy. This is potential championships. Like, he legit has, like, his trajectory is Hall of Fame. That is his trajectory, right? But he want gang bang. He want come over as hard and tote guns. And I think he needs to. What I would like to see happen is some of the older players or veterans or even some of the retired guys come to him and say, you've got a bright future, young man. You don't need to be doing the things that you're doing. It's okay to be soft and making millions of dollars and being a Hall of Famer and winning championships. You think anybody gonna look at Kobe and see soft? You think anybody looking at Shot and see soft? You think anybody looking at AI saying he's soft? Like, put in the work. Do what you gotta do. Handle your business on the court. You know what I mean? That's where you have security. That's where you have an entourage. That's where you have personnel to make sure that you're safe and not in situations to get you caught up. Now, it is strange to me because he legit has a father. I can't even say a father figure. He has a father that should pull
You
him.
sure? Is it a father or a fan?
Hey man, I'm a father myself. Justin, you're a father. Blaine, I don't know if you have any little ones here or on the way. Wink, wink. But I know that as a father, you don't want to see your child going and doing something they shouldn't do. No, obviously, you don't want nobody to take advantage of your child or say bad things to your child or bully your child. You don't want anything like that. But on the same token, if he has a purpose, if he's on a path, he's gifted, he's talented, he is, like, legit can be this generation's version of Allen Iverson. Shoot, he even has a better chance of surpassing Allen Iverson's legacy simply because of his ability to win championships. The league, as you know, is filled with, like, a lot more parity, and almost everybody could cross anybody, but he's a special talent. So to jeopardize all of these things because you want to seem like a real one, like Dave Chappelle had this skit called "When Keeping It Real Goes Wrong." Yeah, Ja, it's going hella wrong for you. Just focus on the basketball, work on creating helping to create a great culture in Memphis, and you will be all right. I rather people look at me as a X-time champion or X-time Hall of Famer, or not Hall of Famer, sorry, X-time All-Star, Hall of Famer, first team, second team. I rather people look at me and say, "Yeah, boy, he might be a punk, but that man legit. That man legit on the basketball court, and I'm gonna handle his business." So nobody ain't gonna fault you for doing those things. So I don't know, man. It's a strange. It is strange because I have rarely seen a player of his status and magnitude constantly get into trouble, like, back to back to back. There's not like seasons, we talking legit. There's like his 4th incident for the season, 3rd, 4th. I can't remember. He either getting in scuffles with Shannon Sharp and other people. He either ready to show that he got that strap on him or whatever the kids say. He always ready to, be what you trying to Blaine, we have a saying here in the Caribbean about it. What you trying to punk essentially a 70-year-old kid? Like, what you trying to punk somebody that is a minor though? Like, I don't understand what you trying to threaten that youngster. Like, that comes a whole level of stress and legal situations you just don't want. So to me, I just find it fascinating. I think I think if I were in the NBA fraternity, somebody needs to pull him aside and say, "Yo, brother man, you're too talented for this. Like you like your family depending on you. You have a child, you know what I mean? She depending on you. You have the potential to be one of the greatest players of all time. You could be in the next 25 years could be one of the 100. You know what I mean? So you just don't waste this opportunity, don't waste this talent because you're trying to keep up with a perception of what? Of why? For what? Like, just don't know, man. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. Hopefully, Brian bolster up sports. So this can answer that question.
Wait, hold on. Let me get Brian in here, man. I didn't know Brian sneaked through the back door, man. Let's get Brian in here. Hold on a second.
Yes, Brian did indeed. Snuck in very quiet, but we're breaking down Ja Morant's situation. And as we try to work Brian in, let's shoot him the question before he answers. He listed all the 4 incidents thus far for the season, Brian, whether it was him toting the gun on his Instagram live, whether it was a situation of a mall guard alleging of a physical confrontation, another teenager alleging that Ja punched him repeatedly before going brandishing a gun, or the situation where Indiana Pacers traveling party said that there was a red dot put on one of their traveling parties from a car that Ja Morant was reportedly in. So, Brian, I can turn to Brian now, right, Neil?
Yeah, you can go ahead. I got him. I can put him on the single shot and then work him into the. Just do your thing. Just let me do my thing. You do your thing. Let Brian do his thing.
I don't know what I'm getting involved in technical side. Brian, what's your take on this whole Ja Morant situation?
It's definitely unfortunate, and of course, it's not excusable, really, in any way. But I always do think, maybe this is just me personally, when any of these kind of issues come up, not specific to Ja Morant's this season, that I do find myself having a bit of a soft spot. I just think of myself. I think he's 23. I think of myself at 23. And we all make mistakes, let alone, there's levels to it. Don't get me wrong. And I just hope, like Neil was mentioning there at the end, and like you had said, that he's learning from this. Hopefully, it happened. It was a mistake. And it's something that, with likely a large punishment, that you'll be able to be like, all right, I made my mistake. I really have got to make a change. And then he'll be good to go, because everything you hear about him is all positives, I feel like, from all coaches, players. And, unfortunately, a lot of times it's the 1% that gets us into trouble, where 99% of the time we're all good. We're good with everybody, but it's our 1% that weighs heavily. And to me, I just hope that he's able to take advantage of this, and that's how he views it, to be quite honest with you. I saw something floating around Twitter like it might be a 50-plus game suspension. I have no clue. But if it was to be some sort of suspension at all, I just hope that it's a turning of the page for him. And that way he's able to potentially get new people around him. A lot of times there's a saying that you're kind of the culmination of the 5 closest people to you in your life, and maybe that's something that needs to be addressed. But I just hope this is kind of the stamping mark for Ja Morant's career, that this happened, and then everything kind of took off after that.
Like all 3 of you mentioned, he is 23, right? So we've all made mistakes, and hopefully he's learning from this. And like every analyst I've heard talk about it, it's kind of a good thing that it happened now, so young in his career, so that he can learn and not later on when, it could be the end of him or even be worse financially or career-wise. So again, we've all been young, we've all made mistakes, and the thing is, we are not 23-year-old millionaires. So those mistakes kind of, magnified, for lack of a better word. What I will say is this: his response, his, apology felt heartfelt, and his apology, I know Neil's gonna smile when I say this word, shows a level of accountability. It was no but, it
Very
was
good word.
no there was no buts, it was no, no determining reasons. He said, I own up to this, I am at fault, I will do better. And those are the three things you want to hear in any apology.
Facts.
What baffles me though is like, and I hate to compare players, but this is not a situation like, let's say, Allen Iverson. All four of us are old enough to have seen Allen Iverson's career, where the life he came from. I say that to say Allen Iverson came from the life that Ja Morant seemingly is trying to get into. So when you grow up in that life, you kind of understand how hard it is to leave that life, especially when you look at situations again like Allen Iverson. I've never been in that life, but the talk is that those people around you know from an early age, this is the guy who's probably going to make it. So we are going to sacrifice everything we need to for this one guy to make it. And when he makes it, he is going to pull us along. So, like when Allen Iverson made it, obviously those guys who would have looked out for you back in your young days, you're not going to magically all of a sudden turn your back on them because they were there for you when you needed them. So now that you have the money, you're not going to, for a term we say in the Caribbean, get rich and switch. So the reason I bring that up, Ja Morant didn't come from that life. Ja Morant doesn't have those circumstances. Ja Morant comes from a middle class background.
A two-parent middle class.
I wanted to avoid to say that, but yes,
That's
he comes
important.
from
That's important to say. It's important to say.
it is. He comes from a middle class two-parent household, reportedly from a private school background. Like, and then the moment you get paid, are you trying to put yourself, for lack of a better term, in a hood mentality? People who are from that spend generations trying to get out of that, where they feel like they have no other way out. But you were never in that, and you're putting yourself in that circumstance. Like, I don't get it. Like,
It's strange.
yeah, you don't want to come across like somebody like a Russell Wilson, where you may be seen like corny and big,
Hey,
but
being corny gets you paid. Being boring,
gets you.
being stable gets you paid, and bolsters your legacy. Not to, no pun intended with Brian, but it really does solidify your legacy. I'm just saying.
You don't have to have a gun to come across as tough. I'm sure Draymond Green has never wielded, or at least openly wielded a gun during his NBA time right now, and he's seen as tough. And the second point I don't understand is, right, the faces of your current league are not like this either. When you look at LeBron James, you look at Steph Curry, you look at Giannis Antetokounmpo, all of them at least publicly purport the image of family men, clean-cut guys. So if the faces of your league are like this, why would you want to be anything but? And all of these men are getting paid. All these men having huge endorsements. And to bring up LeBron specifically, guys, he showed that you don't have to leave your friends behind. But when you bring them, elevate them. So look at somebody like a Rich Paul or a Maverick Carter. He didn't leave those guys behind, but he put them in a situation where they are not dragging him, but other words, supporting and elevating to the point where those guys don't need LeBron James for a handout. those guys have their own things going on. And Ja Morant can do the same with his crew. And if this crew, sorry, I don't want to use the word crew, but if his guys around him,
A posse. Shout out to Phil Jackson.
shout out the great Phil Jackson, but if your guys around you can't see the need to be elevated, if your father can't see the need in which you can move like Rich Paul or Maverick Carter, then I don't know what to say other than it's sad that you have to get rich and switch, but you're going to have to get rid of these guys if they don't see the amount of money, the legacy that Neil taught that you're about to cost Ja Morant.
But here's the thing.
So sorry for my...
No, that's
go
fine.
ahead.
I just want to make this point, right? Like, I am not saying that he has, because you made mention of Steph Curry, LeBron James, etc., other superstars. Shoot, you could put Giannis in that conversation. Superstars that are clean cut and seemingly, boring, for lack of a better term. And Ja may want to be the opposite to that. Now, remember when Allen Iverson came into the league, Michael Jordan, ball head, clean cut, getting a fade, all of that was his style, right? Allen Iverson got his braids, got his tattoos, was wearing street clothes when he wasn't playing or spectating other games. And he wanted to be kind of like the anti Michael Jordan, for the lack of a better term, or the stereotypical superstar. Look, Kobe grew his hair because he didn't want to be like Michael Jordan either, right? He wanted to not have a bald head and rock it. So I don't have a problem with you as a young player coming in and wanted to stamp your mark on the league, whether it be expression through hair or tattoos or whatever. I just think that there is no benefit to you for the off-court stuff. I ain't saying that you gotta be squeaky clean. Shoot, look at James Harden. Harden has a open membership to every strip club in America, I assume, right? So I don't think you have to be clean cut per se, but what benefit do you have by threatening anybody by toting a gun on social media, by purporting this hard mindset and mentality when what you do is play basketball? You are very good at playing basketball. Your team has a legitimate shot at making some noise in the playoffs. You know what I mean? Like everything coming at aces for you. The reason why people are hard, or people that come from that life has always had it hard and they know what it's like to be behind the 8 ball and stuff like that. Ja Morant, you're in 2023, you are a millionaire and poised to be one of the greatest of all time. So I don't think he needs to be clean cut. But by all means, probably that's where he gets his athleticism and his game from, by being have that edge. But come on, man, like,
right. But with Allen Iverson was being true to himself because that's where he came from.
exactly
This
that.
is my problem. Like when you bring up Allen Iverson, the tattoos, and I mean, forget tattoos. What the image he represented was who he was. That's where he came from. This is not where Ja Morant came from. So I have a problem with him now getting money and trying now to be something that you're not. Like, wait. So Blaine to this situation, because no, Brian, I didn't even see this, is suggesting that this suspension may be an extremely long one. Now you have a situation where Brandon Clark will be missing the rest of the season with an ACL tear or ACL sprain.
Yep.
And no, Dillon Brooks, as expected, has hit that 16 technical mark of the season. So he faced a 1-game suspension on Sunday night, and every other technical will lead to a similar 1-game suspension. Blaine, have the wheels completely fallen off in Memphis?
Yeah, I think that they've kind of started to showcase that they're still all talk, and that's been the precedent coming out of Memphis since, honestly, especially last year too. They showcased their talent during the regular season. They talked the talk, but then when it came down to it in the postseason, they couldn't walk the walk. Like, that team should have been out in the first round. Remember, like, Minnesota outplayed them 98% of that series, but Minnesota was arguably the choke job of the postseason last year with how they closed out games in the fourth quarter. And Memphis ends up winning that series. Then they play the Warriors. I do think Ja's injury probably plays an impact in that series. I think it goes 7. But still, like, they haven't showcased themselves enough other than being a team that wants to act tough, but they are putting themselves in the wrong situation when it comes to actually playing on the basketball court. This team struggles on the road. They're a 6-point per game difference on the road, and their defense is exponentially worse statistically on the road. Then you have the predicament. I think Brandon Clark is one of the biggest losses going into this postseason with his Achilles tear. Like, the man's done for the year. The man is their sixth man. He is their energy man coming off the bench for that squad. I think he's a bigger loss than people actually realize, because when they go to their closeout lineup, it's Brandon Clark and Jaren Jackson. It's not Valanciunas on the court with I think it's Valanciunas. I don't know. Steven Adams. Excuse me. I got that wrong. It's not Steven Adams in the closing as the closing five. It's Brandon Clark every time when they really need a victory. Then you have the whole situation. There's no way it's going to be 2 games, as I emulated earlier. This is going to be a lengthy suspension. The NBA knows everything, so it's just going to continue to escalate for Memphis. And then when you have Dillon Brooks, who is a big time talker and likes to play with some physicality, that's only going to impede them even more. So the team's starting to actually get a little bit thin on their bench. And you have the whole Morant situation. They're just causing more and more problems off the court that are affecting them on the court. So we've seen the slide. And then when they're on the court, they haven't looked that great, especially in recent weeks. So they have no one to blame but themselves. Like, honestly, I put them as the 4th or arguably 5th best team in the West right now, right? Like, you put Denver ahead of them. I'd put the Warriors ahead of them right now. I'd put Phoenix ahead of them. Yeah, hold it up, Justin. So there's 3 teams right there. I'm trying to think of the other teams that are popping in my head right now, the top seeds. But you have them at least arguably there. They're the 4th best team in the West, just if we're thinking about it logically there. And then, honestly, I mean, Sacramento's been the storyline of the season. Like, Mike Brown's going to be coach of the year. Like, they're no slouch. They arguably have the best home court in basketball right now, and it sickens me to say it as a Golden State Warriors fan. So this is not a stretch for Memphis. They're going the wrong way in the wrong direction real fast, and it could arguably lead to a first-round exit.
Brian, do you agree the wheels come completely off, or is there a way for Memphis to salvage what's left of the season?
It's going to be a lot harder now that Brandon Clark is done for the season. But, the devil's advocate side of this is they were 20-5 without Ja Morant last year. Now, I get it's a new year. The team isn't exactly the same. And that record has dipped since then, for sure. But they have shown some success without him. So I don't know that they completely plummet and don't make the playoffs. But that Western Conference is pretty stacked. A lot of those playoff teams are very close. And, I think they're only maybe 5 games up from about the 7 seed. And I wouldn't be completely shocked to see them slide into the play-in game, especially because there's potential for this to not just be, Ja's missing games because of an injury. There's some obvious off the field kind of issues that could potentially just, distractions, as coaches always say. So, I do see the Grizzlies making the playoffs and losing in the first round, for sure.
Neil, you agree? Give me some counterbalance here. You got to say somewhere along the lane that Memphis can figure this out, right?
Not me. So what I think is going to, I can keep this kind of brief. Like, what you guys said, all is insane. Right now, they're in second, right? And then, apart from what Brian and Blaine said in terms of injuries, in terms of distractions, in terms of this kind of pseudo bad boy image they want to perpetuate, you got to consider their schedule. They got the Clippers twice, they got the Mavericks twice, the Bucks somewhere in there. You have top teams that you have to face, and now with all of these, all of these injuries and suspensions looming, are they even better to beat some of the teams that, let's say, the Atlanta Hawks? Do you think that they could beat them? Do you think that they can beat the Bulls? You know what I mean? In their current state. So it's like Ja Morant, that Ja Morant situation is huge in that he is the engine that could for the Memphis Grizzlies. He is the leader of the Memphis Grizzlies. And I think players like Dillon Brooks, who just, runs his mouth unnecessarily, he feeds off of that from Ja Morant. And all of them kind of go into that mode. Like Blaine was talking about, they're all taught. It's the wrong thought. I wouldn't say they're all taught. It is just, they're in second now. They're going to make the playoffs, as you guys said. Apart from that, first round fodder. And that is unfortunate because this team had the potential. Everybody was looking forward to them having the chip on their shoulder, trying to make noise and the revenge tour and, hoping to see their budding rivals in the Golden State Warriors. But no, it's all for naught, right? We're not going to see Ja Morant, Brandon Clark, Dillon Brooks leading the body. Like, it's a mess in Memphis, in my opinion. To be honest, if they're still in the top 6 seed, I think the only thing that may save them is that it's so late in the season that they can still probably get a surprising playoff berth if they could somehow hold on some of them teams. But shoot, I don't know. I think wheels falling off real quick, and I think if they could just get Ja Morant kind of reeled in, injuries aside, everything should be good. But yeah, I think this season is the wash for them.
Going to be a very boring segment. I was hoping somebody would say,
yeah, man, Memphis, NBA Finals.
Yeah. Bucket. The Mega Rice. I think this is going to be a 30 for 30. This is going to be a Disney Plus movie. This is going to be like the Mighty Ducks of basket. Come on, Justin.
Yeah, that's why I picked y'all, because just like me, y'all come with reason and facts and stats. Reality is, yes, falling right off. Before what I'm about to say, there was apparently a report that Steven Adams had a players-only meeting in which he said the team players needed to be focused when they were on the road and stop with the extracurricular activities like going out on the town. And apparently, all the players knew they weren't referring to that he wasn't referring to them. He had one player in mind, and he's referring to Ja Morant. So clearly, they knew what was going on before we found out. And Steven Adams clearly thought this was a problem that would eventually reach a head. Yeah, guys, like, you're losing your sixth man, as Blaine said, a potential or an essential 6-star, whatever you want to call it, because he does close out the games. Dillon Brooks, every other game is probably another technical away from this sitting out games. Your best player is not going to play for the foreseeable future. And like, no, you look at it, my Suns got Kevin Durant, Dallas Mavericks got Kyrie Irving. It's only going to get tougher going on from here. And then Neil correctly said, like, their schedule, you have the Clippers twice, you have the Mavericks twice, you have the Warriors twice, you have the Bucks somewhere knocking around there, you have the Heat. This is a very tough schedule to close. And I think also Blaine touched on the fact this is a bad team on the road. This is not a team that wins road games. Like Brian said, I suspect that they're going to hold on for a playoff spot. But then when they do, can we sit down and say, can they beat Denver? Can they beat Phoenix? Can they beat Dallas? Can they beat Sacramento? Can they beat Golden State? Not without Ja, they're not going to, guys. We're going to keep in the Western Conference, Brian. And this may be addition via subtraction. Los Angeles Clippers tried to address their point guard situation by picking up Neil's favorite player, Russell
Westbrook. Don't do that. Don't do that.
The unfortunate situation is that they lost their first 4 games with Russell Westbrook in the lineup before finally pulling out a victory on Sunday night over, coincidentally, Ja Morant-less Grizzlies. Brad, are the Los Angeles Clippers regretting picking up Russell Westbrook, or I don't know, in free agency, if you want to call it that?
I don't think they regret it, just because I know the Clippers want to win games, but we always, talk about rivalries, and a lot of times it gets brought up like, oh, well, who's the little brother? Like Auburn's Alabama's little brother in the rivalry, and so on. But nothing rivals the Lakers and the Clippers. Like, the Clippers are so bad. Like, just their history is so bad. It could not be more lopsided that I know they've been a more respectable team that's kind of been snake bit with injuries, but I still think their number one focus is on trying to build up their fan base and just get more attention on their team. And I think for that reason, it's a success. When it comes to play on the court, no. Like, I'm sorry. I used to love Russell Westbrook. I was a huge Kobe fan. Westbrook went to my dad's high school, Lusinger High School, and KD was my second favorite player. Like, so I loved those OKC Thunder. And I loved Westbrook and KD. I thought Harden, not that they should trade him, don't get me wrong, but I thought like it was those two by a mile over Harden. And he's just not a winning player. I mean, I know people have all sorts of theories. They point to a million different things, but for whatever it is, he is always seeming to make poor decisions. That's what I would chalk it up to. Poor decisions. Like the poor guy in the one game just the other day, they're trying to run the clock out and he just like the ball slips through his hands and goes out of bounds. It's like, what are the chances of that even happening? But it's like, he's just cursed or something because he's a good player. I mean, I know he's dipped recently, but I don't know. Bad luck. The Clippers, they aren't going to win squat. They aren't ever going to win. Russell Westbrook or not, to be honest with you.
Do you agree, Blaine? Is this a mistake for the Clippers to sign Westbrook, or is this just a situation where early growing pains and we should ignore that 1-4 record?
I mean, I think the biggest thing for the Clippers is that, we were kind of talking about before we started, Neil and Justin, was that, Brian, you hadn't hopped on yet, is that, were you guys not watching the Warriors game and how far Draymond Green played off of Russell Westbrook? He was literally, you could make the argument, he was 15 feet away from Russell Westbrook. That is worse than Ben Simmons' defense.
No doubt. And not to cut you off real quick, but when I saw that highlight, I was like, that is what makes people think that they can play in the league. That clip is the reason people talk crazy on Twitter because they're like, I could make that shot.
Exactly. And then they're also on the other side. They're like, I can play defense like that. Give Russell Westbrook a jump shot.
I could do that. I could do that for 30 grand. I could do it.
Right? But the biggest thing, I think Brian kind of nailed it on the head. It's more of what the Clippers are trying to do is just land names. They're trying to promote their brand. I don't think it's more or less them going to be successful on the basketball court. If you really wanted to be successful on the basketball court, you wouldn't have traded John Wall away. Because I think John Wall at this point of time is a better point guard than Russell Westbrook is. Because John Wall can do a little bit more versatility on the offensive end. The biggest thing is that with Russ is that you know he's not going to, his motor's never going to shut off, right? That's the one thing is that he's going to give you 125 miles an hour 100% of the time. But I think optically speaking, this hinders you because the Warriors just showed you, they're going to every team's going to play 4-on-5 on the defensive end now for the rest of the season. And I don't think it's because Russell Westbrook has a bad jump shot. He's shooting over 30% from the three-point line this year. I think now it's so mentally fixated on him that someone had the audacity to play defense like that on him, and that's just might derail his ability and willingness to shoot the basketball. It's they are literally daring me to shoot the ball. When you have Paul George and Kawhi on the floor with you, right? You want to feed those two guys. And then, but unfortunately speaking, I don't think the two of them are enough. Kawhi, you don't know what you're going to get every night now because the man's is playing a game and then taking 3 games off because of this whole load management thing. And then with PG's shot's been a little bit inconsistent this year too, right? So with the Clippers, I can't really get into an argument about the Clippers because I think they've been the biggest flubs of the season this year. If you were looking at them at the beginning of the season on paper, we thought they would be where the Memphis Grizzlies are, neck and neck with Denver to be the top team in the West. But because the Clippers are being the Clippers, they are now flirting with it just to make the playoffs because they keep going through ups and downs, and you don't know what you're going to get on any given night.
Do I even have to ask Neil, as a Lakers fan, who hated Russell Westbrook from the moment that it was rumored he was coming to LA? Like, so they
This
just
is Neil's
skip
Super
past it.
Bowl that
Go
he
ahead,
went
Neil.
across the street.
I mean, look. To be honest, right? Like, Laker bias aside, this, if they don't regret it, they should be regretting it, right? Because, and I feel bad for the Clippers, right? Because they were in a kind of quandary. They had to get a point guard because John Wall doesn't play, but they ended up getting a Russell Westbrook that can't play, right? Like, as I always joke and say, is like the Monsters, you know, the ball from Space Jam 1. Like, I think Russell Westbrook touched it and they got some alien somewhere playing that got his skills. Like, he is not good anymore, and it's sad to see it, but to be honest, I don't understand what the Clippers, and I know some people were really high on the Clippers early in the season. I was never high on the Clippers, not because of the Laker thing, but because you have a bunch of players. One, you have Paul George that when the playoffs comes, he doesn't do anything. Two, you have Kawhi Leonard that, as Blaine rightly said, he plays one game and then takes 3 off, right? Doesn't play back-to-backs, et cetera, et cetera. And then you add Russell Westbrook, who, like, he makes bad decisions, as Brian said, right? Then when you look at their bench doesn't have anything. Like, you have inconsistency at every position. You got people that could come out and give you 20 and 8 either which way, but then for the most part, they don't show up. So I don't understand what's the game plan with the Clippers. And if I'm going to be very honest, I think it's time to blow up. I think it was a mistake to get Russell Westbrook. Again, that's looking at it right now. We don't know what the long-term plan is, but Russell is not that guy to stem the tide when PG is off and when Kawhi Leonard is load managing. You understand what I'm saying? And right now you have what would have been, as Blaine said, them being in the second position, third position, middle of the pack of the West. They're barely struggling and holding on to the AFC. So it's like, I don't understand why they picked him up. I am happy they did, but I think it is something that they're definitely going to be rethinking going forward, because you want to tap into the potential that you have right now. I don't know if Russell Westbrook is that guy.
In theory, I understand the decision or the thinking behind it. Like, you don't have an out-and-out facilitator throughout the entire roster. It is a particularly deepish roster, but there's no out-and-out facilitator. And Russ's numbers would fool you into thinking that this is a pass first player, so let's get him in here. And you have the relationship, and everything in life is driven on relationships. So you had the relationship between Paul George and Russell Westbrook. So that probably kind of drove whichever direction for them to get Russell Westbrook. Problem, as you all mentioned, you're not going to play 4-on-5 every down possession, because whether Russ can shoot it or not, teams are going to dare him to shoot it. And what I don't understand this is that I thought the Clippers had enough not to look Russ's direction, in that you could put Terrence Mann as a de facto point guard, or you brought in Bones Hyland, so I figured you could risk that. And the thing is, especially with Terrence Mann is above average defensively, where Russ is a minus at that end of the floor. And both Terrence Mann and Bones Hyland this season particularly have been shooting it well from deep. I think both are around that 38, 39% from behind the arc. That is the type of player you want around Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. I know you think you want a facilitator to make life easier, but as we've seen with players or star players, you really want somebody to space the floor. You don't want somebody to create for them. They don't want somebody to create for themselves. They can do that themselves. They want somebody to space the floor so the floor is not plugged up and they're not seeing added defenders every time they touch the ball. Or if they do see added defenders, they want a player that can make you pay for bringing an added defender in their path, whether it's the key or when you're straight up double teaming or, just trapping off of a pick and roll. I just do not understand why you thought Russ was this guy. And if you were going to bring Russ, I thought the obvious move was to bring Russ off the bench and let him work with that second string. But for Ty Lue to be spending multiple minutes or having an entire game with him next to Kawhi Leonard and Paul George, when really we've seen from 2010 your star players really need as much space as possible. Guys, it was a bit downfolding for me, but what do I know? I'm a guy with a podcast, not an NBA coach or an NBA general manager, so I don't know anything about basketball. I also don't know about Philadelphia 76ers because I can admit right now I was one of the guys who fell asleep on them saying that the Eastern Conference is a two-horse race. So, Neil, considering we've been talking about Boston and Milwaukee and Boston and Milwaukee all season long, have we been sleeping on the Philadelphia 76ers, and are we wrong for doing that?
Well, this is a tough one for me, right? Like, I always thought that Philly was a decent team. I always thought that they would be middle of the pack in the East, like around that 4, 5, 6 position. To see them in third now is, everybody was looking for that James Harden to come and play proper basketball and actually look like the James Harden of old. And we are seeing that. We are seeing the emergence of Tyrese Maxey, some other players that are playing really well for the franchise. So, I mean, and then looking at their schedule too, they really do have a good shot of remaining in third, or even maybe, depending on how the Bucks or Celtics play, they could sneak up into the second seed. But if everything holds strain, they could stay in the third seed. But I mean, to say that sleeping, what do we expect, right? Do we expect them to go out there and make noise in the playoffs? No, I still think that it really comes down between, the Bucks versus the Celtics, and we can get into that a little later in the show. But Philadelphia is playing well. Look, Joel Embiid is showing that he's shot 2023, and he's really dominant. I think he's making a very solid case for himself as MVP this season. James Harden's playing well. I just think, and they're well coached. I mean, I have we been sleeping? I think we've been sleeping a bit, probably napping. I think we've been napping on the 76ers a bit, but I still don't have them to be a team to look out for in the Eastern Conference. Like when you start to get to the semifinals of the Eastern Conference, I think that is going to be, you can really see the mice from the men. So yeah, I don't know. This is a hard one to me. I won't say sleep in, but we've been a little narcoleptic on it.
Do you agree, Brain? Should we not be overlooking the Philadelphia 76ers?
I mean, I'm still sleeping on them, to be quite honest with you. Like, and really, it just all comes down to they've had a nice regular season. Maxey looks good. Harden's quietly been 22-10, but it's always the playoffs. Like, that's what it really comes down to, especially with the Philly team, who's had plenty of regular season success. I mean, the next step is playoff success, and it's a play style thing for one. Like, their two guards are absolutely atrocious on defense. Maxey and Harden, awful on defense. That's going to make the playoffs hard. It also hurts Embiid and Harden's play style. Once you get to the playoffs, more physical play is allowed. That's going to make their lives more difficult. And I still just don't quite believe, namely in Harden, to be quite honest. Like, I just would be shocked if he played a great playoff series, especially past the first round. Like, I'd just be shocked. And Tobias Harris, nothing against him, but, we've just seen him kind of repeatedly come up short to some degree, where a lot of times he was that third wheel, and he was a very distant third wheel. So to me, it's the Bucks and the Celtics by a mile. And if Philly was able to pull off an upset in either of those two series, Embiid had to go full Shaq. Like, it's not going to be Harden. Maxey might do something, but it's going to be Embiid going like 40-20, which he could do. The question is the consistency. Like, I don't know if he's like ever made it through a playoff run completely healthy.
Don't think he has either. Brand, I'll keep looking, but yeah, I think you're quite safe there. Blaine, like the others, are you sleeping on Philadelphia, or can they pull off an Eastern Conference run all the way to the
I
finals?
mean, oh gosh, no, they can't. Um,
I should have prefaced this, sorry, gentlemen, in this question by saying that the Philadelphia 76ers just not the Milwaukee
that's
Bucks
irrelevant,
directly
Justin.
16. Yeah, go ahead, Blaine.
I would have to say no.
Why such a
I
homer?
think
Then?
I know.
Like you were in the Suns.
He really trying to reel us into that. He's really trying to
oh.
reel us in. No, but I think you have to also factor in how much of a leash are we going to give Doc Rivers now, right? Like he continues to struggle in these last recent years with the Clippers and the Sixers of trying to get the job done. He was great in Boston. He hasn't really done much since, right? If you're actually breaking it down, they've been great regular season teams and they haven't done much in the postseason. And you can't really, arguably, based off of where the East is at, I think Brooklyn's going to fall out of that 6th seed and Miami slides in. Like that series is no gimme because Miami's one of the few teams that matches up really well with the 76ers, especially defensively when you have Jimmy Butler who's going to take James Harden. You have Bam Adebayo who's going to take Joel Embiid. So like you can't even like make the guarantee that they're going to make it out of the first round. So I wouldn't say sleeping on them. I got to agree with the boys here and be like, there's not much that gives me much confidence in them. Like the team also has no bench, like none
at all.
Like
at all.
It is their starting 5 and bust. Like
Montrezl Harrell and
if
Shea
Tobias
Gilson.
Harris shows up, like Brian said. So
yeah, I needed to find a hot take guy to put in this panel because it's going to be a very, very boring segment.
Justin, you're
I'm not
right
only
here. You're the
sleeping
host
Yeah,
of the show.
let you go for it,
Bring the
brother. Just
heat,
go
bro.
ahead,
Come
man.
on.
Is that let's get it.
I'm not that guy because not only am I sleeping, I'm snoozing. I took the Alka-Seltzer just to get to sleep. Like I've taken the melatonin. So let me preface this by saying the Milwaukee Bucks had a 16-game win streak and the 76ers snapped it.
The NBA should come back for your Suns apparel. They should come back for all of your Suns gear and take it right back. Why are we talking about the Bucks? What does that mean that they snap a streak? Like this in today's NBA. Anybody
we're all
can
sleeping on them. We might as well just go to the talk Bucks Celtics. Who's got the edge? That's the real question now.
Well, we can get there.
I'm gonna get there quickly. Like that game really didn't mean anything. Like Philadelphia had to go 7 of 11 from behind the arc in the fourth quarter to come from behind. I think Dolan 18 against the Bucks. Y'all mentioned it. The team is not deep. The team does not play defense, and not only does the team not play defense, they are terrible at probably the worst spot to be terrible at on defense, meaning the point of attack. Like you have James Harden, who is a turnstile, and then you have Tyrese Maxey, turnstile Jr. Like you're not going to beat Boston or Milwaukee. That's a likely second round matchup, but you're going to get one of the two of them. And when you look at Boston and Milwaukee, both teams are not just deeper than you, but these are two elite defensive teams. And Milwaukee for sure has the size to deal with Joel Embiid, even though the 76ers this season have a 2-1 winning record against them. But then against Boston, they're winless. I think they're 0-3. Yeah, there's a reason to sleep because Boston and Milwaukee, they're deep. They play defense. Both of them shoot 3 and shoot the 3 consistently well from all spots on the floor, not named Giannis Antetokounmpo. And yeah, that's the only player that doesn't shoot 3 in their starting fives or big rotations of all both teams I just mentioned. Yeah, so let's get through this quickly and get to what we really came here for. The Beast of the East, Milwaukee, Boston. Blaine, who is the better team? Who is the best team in this
Oh
conference.
my goodness. It really is just a 1A and 1B between these two teams. I'm gonna ride.
Go ahead. Come on.
I'm
Go
gonna
with your
take
bets.
the Boston Celtics. Why? I think that last postseason getting to the NBA Finals really showed something where they kind of almost had that championship kind of wrapped up if it wasn't for Steph Curry going absolutely ballistic in Game 4. And then kind of after that, the wheels fell off. But this team is deep. They're consistent. They play both ends. They haven't skipped a beat after the whole Udoka situation. Hasn't phased them one bit. I can't remember the coach's name right now off the top of my head, but Missoula is my coach of the year personally, and that's saying a lot with what Mike Brown's doing in Sacramento. But he's my coach of the year, able to pick up the pieces, especially with all the off the court stuff and focusing on the court. Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown have become one of the best duos in basketball, and that's saying something. And then the team's just deep. They got Robert Williams, you got Grant Williams. There's talent all over the court. Marcus Smart is just a dog on the basketball floor. Peyton Pritchard's starting to come up and show something off the bench. I think the Boston's just more a complete team in comparison to Milwaukee, where if Giannis struggles, the team's kind of struggles. So the team has another option with the other guys. So taking Boston.
Neil, are you going with Marsha's Boston Celtics? Don't be quoted by Marsha. Or are you going with the team in my home state, the Milwaukee Bucks?
Yeah, so I am gonna have to go with the Milwaukee Bucks. Yeah, I gotta go to the Milwaukee Bucks because there is one reason for that, and I watched their game against the Nets on Friday, right? And they were blowing them out in the first quarter. They were up by 22, and they ended up losing that game by 10, right? To the what was it? I can't remember that guy's name from the
Boston.
Mikal Bridges.
Mikal Bridges, yes. Led by Mikal Bridges. He had like over 40 or something. Yeah. Right. And when I watched that game, I saw something that is going to be a problem going forward. Now I agree with Blaine 100% in that, especially with a playoff roster, you shorten that rotation. They have a very deep and good team. You know, you got Time Lord in there controlling the paint, getting rebounds. I agree Marcus Smart is a dog. And Jaylen Brown has been solid for them. Jayson Tatum is, you can see his growth, you can see his improvement. And, I like him because he's a Kobe disciple, so you're going to see that maturity in him, right? He got his own signature shoe now. My man got Deuce Trey, or whatever. What is his name? Deuce, right? Deuce. He got Deuce, and, but something about Milwaukee shows me that, one, they've been there and done that, and two, they are far deeper than the Boston Celtics, right? And they're deep in ways that can be problematic for Boston Celtics or any other team, right? You got Joe Ingles, you got Wesley Matthews, you have still got Middleton, you have Brogdon, you have so many players that can attack the rim, be good perimeter players, and then you have good interior defense, right? So to me, and then let's not understand this, right? But Giannis Antetokounmpo is special beyond measure. Like at this point, I run out of superlatives and adjectives to call that man. That man is really, really good at basketball. So even if you have like a Time Lord in there, you have what's that guy's name? Montrezl Harrell. You have certain players in there, it could still be very problematic for them. But yeah, you got Jay Crowder too. So I don't know, man. For me, the Bucks, I know, yeah, shake your head, man. I know you're a Milwaukee fan, I know you're a No, don't shake your head. You're a Milwaukee fan. No. Come on, no. You have that on because you signed some blood oath with Phoenix years ago, but you secretly are a Milwaukee fan. I don't mind you. But yeah, so I honestly, I think the Bucks are the better team in the Eastern Conference, the best team in the Eastern Conference, because the Celtics are there. It's like they're on the precipice, but it's like they still got some fine-tuning to do to become a championship caliber team, right? They can get there, but do they have enough to get, like, for example, if you see them play the Bucks in a 7-game series this year, do you think that they could beat them? I can't readily say yes. I cannot, like, I know you last year we could have said, yeah, man, that's for sure, but I can't say that confidently, no. Then can the Celtics beat the top teams from the West? So I don't know, man. I think for me it's the Bucks. The Bucks are the better team, and Justin, it's time to sell the Phoenix gear and come on home.
Oh, sounds fine for life. Brian, break the tape.
Yeah, I do think the Celtics are the better team, but I'm picking the Milwaukee Bucks because they have Giannis. And really, that's just that's what it comes down to. They played in the playoffs last year. In the second round, it was a 7-game series, and they ended up winning, obviously, 4-3, with the last game being at home. This year, as it stands, and I think it will remain that way, the Milwaukee Bucks will have home court advantage. And I think that's going to be the difference. I think 7-game series again. Giannis averaged 34, 15, and 7 in that series. I don't care who they have. Nobody will be able to answer for Giannis. And it's just that I think the Celtics will turn the ball over again. I really think Jayson Tatum has made a leap this year. And he's a great player. Jaylen Brown obviously is a great number 2 option to have. But I still think they're going to have issues in turning the ball over when it comes to a playoff series. And I still, I'm not betting on Derek White to step up. Marcus Smart might have his one game. But the Celtics role players just scare me a little bit. And I think the Bucks, I know we talk about their depth, but I think Giannis is just the most unstoppable force that I don't have to think as much about can, Billy off the bench hit a 3. You know what I mean? I just think Giannis is that guy. They need Chris Middleton to be healthy, stay healthy. And Jrue Holiday, I'll say, I think he's one of the most underrated players in the league because he is not flashy, 100% with you, but he is a winning player. He's going to make all the plays in the game that don't reflect in a box score. Maybe they have an analytic for it nowadays. I'm not sure. But the Bucks, man, Giannis, I've got to go with them, which hurts me. I really love Jayson Tatum, but I'm going with the Bucks.
Listen, if that was the most PC ass, I was saying that is the most PC ass I've ever heard. I think the Boston Celtics are the better team, but I am choosing the Bucks. Oh, come on, Brian. Come on, Brian. We've seen that from other commentators. You're better than that, man. Come on.
Hey, in my defense, and I've said this multiple times, I think I'm just going to say 90%, but take that for whatever it's worth. 90% of the time, the team with the better player wins the series, not necessarily the better team, which, I get is completely contradictory. And, if you win, aren't you the better team? But, that's my saying.
Very nice.
So going back to that series last year, you did fail to mention, Boston won it, but I'm certain. Oh my, where words failing me right now. Certain Chris Middleton did not play in that series, and Milwaukee held a 3-2 advantage. And I mean, this Boston to me is a lot better. I don't think there's a wrong answer here. I think, like Blaine said, it's a 1A, 1B situation.
Just say Milwaukee and let's move on. Just come on. You won't say it.
He's giving me the pity talk right now. Blaine, you're on an island. It's okay. Boston's great. Still going with the Bucks, but the Celtics are there.
No. I mean, Boston has been really great and really consistent all year round. But the thing is, like Brian said, one team has Giannis. And Jayson Tatum himself said he was asked at the All-Star break who in his mind was the best player in the league. And he said Giannis. I was shocked he said it, but he gave the perfect example. He said everyone has an off night. Like every single player has an off night. The problem is Giannis's off night is 25 and 12. That is as
And 2
consistent
blocks.
as it gets. Like this guy, I've said this for the last 5 years now. Giannis Antetokounmpo is the league's best player because, like he said, like there's no off night for him, and he plays at both ends of the floor. He makes winning plays, as Brian said. And Jrue Holiday, right? I'm going to quantify it for you, Brian. Jrue Holiday is the league's best perimeter defender. Forget Marcus Smart, right? Jrue Holiday is that guy. It's just he misses games and he's not flashy. He's not flopping and hitting his backside on the floor all the time. Like this is the league's best perimeter defender, and Chris Paul and Devin Booker can attest to that every night they see him. I like Boston a lot, but then when you look at Milwaukee's depth, like they easily go 11, 12 deep now. Like they've added Joe Ingles. They brought in Jay Crowder, who, you know, I personally like.
Still have Bobby Portis.
Is
Still have
what he brings. You have
Brook Lopez.
You have Javon Carter. Brook Lopez, who is an underrated rim protector. Like, and then still that Boston, that keep pace, right? They're an elite defensive team and they protect the rim. Like, if you don't look at this team properly, this is a very big team. Team is massive. And they do not give up points in game. Yeah, they're susceptible to giving up threes, that's for sure. But make this simple. One team has Giannis and the other team doesn't. So Boston is really great, but I would give Milwaukee the edge.
I want you to take off that. I want you to take off that hoodie and show the Milwaukee jersey. That's what I want you to do.
Nah, nope. There's no Milwaukee jersey.
This is the KD jersey that
I
he just got yesterday.
Oh.
I've got a Kevin Johnson coming in on through Amazon. Yeah, KJ number 7. Yep. What I might get is a New York Knicks jersey. No, never that. But they are on a 9-game winning streak, having toppled the Boston Celtics on the road without Jalen Brunson. So, Blaine, this team is in 4th. Should we be taking the Knicks seriously?
No. Next question. No. Still going to be no. They're going to lose in the first round. Yes. They're a great story, right? This is so reminiscent of what they did 2 years ago now in Tibbs' first year. The team plays hard in the regular season. Effort wins games. And when it comes down to postseason play, when a team really wants to dial it up, the Knicks struggled, right? I mean, Julius Randle finally at least shows that he can go right. Still doesn't have a right hand if we actually knew it. RJ Barrett definitely doesn't have a right hand. Kudos to the moves that they made with Jalen Brunson. Actually, overpaid him, but I think he's been a huge leadership player for them, and he's produced. And you're starting to see those young guys actually start to show some things, like Quickly and Obi Toppin off the bench. But I mean, right now they're going to get Cleveland. You don't think Donovan Mitchell wants to rub it in their face that that the Knicks didn't go trade for him, go home and showcase everything what he can do at the Garden? Like, they're going to lose in the first round. Down to it. You can pass it off to the next person. I can't talk Knicks. I really can't. They despise me.
They despise you?
I think it's going to be boring.
And I despise them.
Say what? Did you do the Knicks organization that they got you?
I went to college outside the Garden, so they know.
So your pitch is on a dartboard?
They have
Never let this man in. Blaine Spencer.
Well, not Blaine Spencer, but Brian Bolster. Do the Knicks have it out for you, or do you have it out for the Knicks? Are this team also not legit?
I mean, I think they're legit. I just have to agree with Blaine. Like, if we're talking about a playoff run, it's not going to happen. I think they don't match up well with Cleveland. I think they play really hard. It's been nice to see Julius Randle bounce back. I know RJ Barrett catches a ton of flack. And, what was he, the second pick or the third pick? And he hasn't quite lived up to that, although he's stayed healthy, unlike Zion. And of course, he isn't quite Ja, but he's been a productive player. You'd like to see his percentage go up a little bit, but I think he's shooting like 33 from three. He's a solid player. They're just missing that extra bit, like Jalen Brunson, like Blaine brought up. He's a really good ad. You can say they overpaid him, but that's every free agent pickup in the world. Like, it's always going to be an overpay, but the market's just climbing and climbing and climbing. I think it was a great pickup to add him. He's been awesome. They're a good team. They're a good team that's going to lose in the first round. That's what it is. Like Tibbs, he brings your floor up, but they don't have anybody, I don't think, that can elevate them to the second round, to be quite honest with you, because what it's going to come down to is Donovan Mitchell versus Jalen Brunson, and I'm taking Donovan Mitchell all the time, let alone the rest of the roster. But again, best player wins the series.
I don't even have to ask Neil because Neil grew up in the 90s loving Jordan, so this is going to be a straight no New York.
Come on. Why do that? Why are we going back in the past, man? But no, seriously, New York, yeah, if you're asking if they're legit, yeah, they're the legit better team in New York. But other than that, I think that they're playing well. I think that they're finding their success and their footing with how they're going about things in the season. But yeah, as both Blaine and Brian said, like when it comes to the playoffs, they don't have a legit star, or rather, they don't have a legit cohesive playoff roster that can handle the likes of, like, let's say the Cleveland Cavaliers or anybody else. So it is interesting because I think that they're finding their success, and I know Knicks fans all over the world are enjoying seeing their relative success, and it's kind of giving them fake hope. But at the end of the day, I think that this is about it. This is what you're gonna see, and this is what you're gonna get. I don't see the Knicks being an upset team, like looking to dethrone not dethrone, but sorry, beat a higher seed team or anything like that. I think you're gonna see them in the first round, and that is it. I don't know. I don't know why this is a question. Legit? No, I don't think they're legit at all. And it has nothing to do with Jordan and the 90s. It's just current basketball dictates, like, you got left-handed players that don't go right. You know what I mean? It's simple.
Two of them.
Yeah. So yeah.
I'm going to make this short and sweet. They're not legit. I'm glad for the run that they've made in the regular season. Like Blaine said, Tibbs will always have you playing hard, going to play great defense. Effort wins you regular season games. And so that's, what the Knicks will do under Tibbs. But that first round matchup is a likely matchup with Cleveland Cavaliers. And like Brian said, usually the best player wins the series, and that best player in a series of the Cavaliers and Knicks will indeed be Donovan Mitchell. That aside, like, this team plays hard, this team plays defense, and I like that. Jalen Brunson has been a good all-season addition, regardless of contract aside. The issue is, right, that all y'all mentioned it. You have a pair of lefties that don't go right, but not just that. You have a pair of lefties who are isolation scorers, and they're not exactly the best three-point shooters. I say that to see when you come into the playoffs now, like, good teams are awaiting you. You're not beating bad teams anymore. And good teams will game plan for you. And if all of your points are coming in isolation, like good defensive teams, like even if you get past Cleveland, you're going to see Milwaukee or Boston. They can take away Julius, Randle, and RJ Barrett like that. Like, that's nothing that's going to defeat them. The ball doesn't move a lot in New York, and that's not going to beat good defensive teams. And both teams can match up big or small with them. And then, like, Jalen Brunson is a minus at defensive end. You should be playing Isaiah Quickly a lot more. I love Quickly. Like, he is one of my favorite players in the league right now. And I'm not just saying that because of his big night against Boston. The team doesn't shoot it well from three. They shoot a lot more threes now because Tibbs has finally got on to the modern day of basketball. But your better players Julius Randle and RJ Barrett don't shoot it well from three, and they're isolation players. Like, that is not going to win you multiple playoffs series. Like, sorry, like y'all mentioned, it's probably a one and done situation. And hey, New York basketball is back, right? But hopefully we will be back next week. So Blaine, plug yourself, tell the people how to find you and what you got coming up next on the Final Whistle.
Absolutely. Justin, as always, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure. So if you guys haven't yet, like or subscribe, check out Brian's content too. Like or subscribe his stuff. You got these two shows that I was luckily enough to be a part of on this show today is a beauty. But for Russell Sports Pod, Final.Whistle on Instagram and TikTok, Final Whistle Sports Pod on Facebook and YouTube. Myself and Joe, we're getting back into the swing of things tomorrow with an episode. Look out for an episode being dropped Wednesday or Thursday. We're going to be talking a lot of breakdown stuff. We're doing this new segment where we have the GM hat. What are we going to do with NFL teams? As well as then talk some NBA, and then we're both a little bit of golf nuts, even though we suck at golf. So we'll probably talk about some of frenetic golf coming up. So that's what's happening with the Final Whistle.
Please go subscribe. That is indeed the Final Whistle podcast. Brian Bolster, how to find you?
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me. Again, make sure that you're liking and subscribing this video and to this show. But you can find me on Twitter at BS Takes or on TikTok at Bolstered Up Sports. Appreciate it, Justin.
Always, Brian. Neil, what a lot of y'all may not know is that as much as Neil is behind the camera, he is in front of the camera for a lot of other shows, including his own The Senate podcast. So I will let Neil indeed plug his own stuff.
Yeah, I echo what the guy said. I had a fun time speaking hoops. It's always a good time speaking hoops with Blaine. Brian is so knowledgeable. Blaine is so matter of fact. But I really did enjoy coming on. So like their content, Final Whistle, and of course Bolstered Up Sports. They do great content, and I'm grateful to be part of this community of sports broadcasters on YouTube. We have a nice little community there, so we're just trying to grow it. But of course, I have the Senate podcast. You can check it out every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 p.m. Barbados time. I do not know what that is in your time zone because I suck at those things. So, but just put in Barbados time. I think we are the same as Eastern, right, Justin?
You are our head right now.
Right. So just put it in Google, 8 p.m. Barbados time, and what is time. Just do it in Google. But yes, the Senate podcast, we talk about life, love, and relationships from the perspective of two Black Caribbean men. Even though it's not really anything to do with race, you could be black, yellow, white, it doesn't matter. Men are struggling in the West, and there are a lot of things that we need to talk about as men, because when you look at the self-deletion rates, when you look at the poverty rates, when you look at just the state men are in mentally, emotionally, physically, is something that we need to talk about. So you can check us out. We do other content there. And of course, we have this space as well. I produce this space. And then I do the Bad Movie Crew, which is a podcast. We talk about movies. We have been on a little hiatus because I can only do so much by myself. But yeah, so just look for the Senate podcast on YouTube, the Senate podcast 246 on Instagram, and I forget the rest of the handles, but Instagram and YouTube are the places that you can mainly find us. And yeah, always a pleasure.
Talented guy, that guy Neil, and y'all thought he wasn't deep, right? But a very deep guy, and Senate podcast is really a great listen. What he doesn't know is that I plan to make a guest appearance on the Senate podcast tomorrow night, actually.
Yeah. I run a podcast. Let me talk to you content creators out there, right? I run a podcast, right? I produce them. I star on some of them. And I am the last to know information on these shows. Whether it's thisJUSTin, whether it is it doesn't matter what podcast I produce, I am always the last to know. See, I didn't know that you were going to be a guest tomorrow. I mean, I'm glad you're going to be a guest, but it'd be nice to know if you're going to be on my podcast or not.
He's not glad. He's about to remove your butt. He's about to text the group chat and be like, I don't want Justin tomorrow. What the heck do you mean?
Yeah, I mean, luckily he's one of my closest, oldest friends, so.
20 minutes. Yeah, I got that message 20 minutes ago while you was talking, so I was like, yeah, let's bring this on you. But yeah, Senate podcast 246, a tremendous podcast dealing with men's health. And well, you're here right now, but if you're not, you typically here, hashtag thisJUSTin, please put in the hashtag. You do not want Max Kellerman and those poor hot takes. Like, we're not here for hot takes. We give you stats, we give you analytical breakdowns. That's what you want. You do not want hot takes. Hashtag thisJUSTin. We are on 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central every Monday night on YouTube. You can also find us on Instagram. You can find us on Twitter, and you can also find us on Facebook. Hashtag thisJUSTin. Those places your primary short form content and here for your long form content. But please, though, while you're at it, Final Whistle, Bolstered Up Sports, and the Senate podcast, I made sure to tune in, so you should also do the same. So for Blaine, for Brand, for Neil, I am indeed Justin of hashtag thisJUSTin signing out. See you again next week for a special Michael Jordan episode that Neil does not want to do.
No, man.
Yeah.
You see what I tell you? I don't know. Listen, before we go, right? I got a rant. I told him I don't want to talk about this conspiracy theory. Okay, fine.
What's the theory?
You tell it, Justin.
I told him before Blaine, Michael Jordan did not retire the first time. He was given an indefinite suspension. So if you want that episode, Blaine, you could come for it. Both of you are invited if you all want.
Guys, don't break it. Don't break your Monday night for this. Don't do it. Do something else with your Monday night. Like water your goldfish.
Michael
you know what I mean? Wash your cactus.
I watched it. Michael Jordan was given an indefinite suspension by none other than the late great David Stern. But
I'm gonna message your wife and have you craft a nice tinfoil hat for you. Just ridiculous.
Let's let me know that Michael Jordan did not retire.
Good night.
I know that after tonight, you don't have to look up at the stars. No. I
Come take a look at my dream world.
Tonight, you don't have to look up at the stars.
Chat, if you wanna come get it, then come for it. I'm so clean, my kick's nice, I'm Chuck Norris. Minute made the beat bounce, had to jump on it. Run for it, run, Gump Forrest Gump like hollow pumps, you gotta jump. No trouble, no double, I got a stun. You don't have to look up at the stars. Make one wish, you're looking at a star.